And we are. One sec. We are live. All right. So, hey all, welcome to Sports Path North. My name is Eli. I'm the host, and welcome back to another video. Where today, of course, we're actually I'm actually with my new co-host Max. He's going to be covering the Big Ten for this channel. And first off, uh, thank you. Thanks for joining in tonight, Max. I'm pretty
You're
sure you have
welcome.
opinions on the channel.
Yep, you're welcome. No, I'm happy to be here, and I think this is going to be really cool.
Yeah. Um, and before we get started on this video, I'm actually going to be on. I'm actually just trying to get updated on some other stuff real quick. Just trying to get the stream out real quick. So if you see me on my phone real quick, that's really it. Yeah. So there we go. And yeah. But while we're waiting, let's go ahead and say the verse of the day. In today's verse, it comes from Matthew 1:21, and it says, "She will give birth to a son, and you are to name him Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." And that's a bit of a Christmas themed verse, as of course you know, as you can tell by the Santa hat here. Yeah. So anyway, let's get this video started. But before we get it started, leave a like, subscribe for more college football content. Without further ado, let's begin. So basically, before we get into this, I just want to say that there are some, I think, teams that I'm kind of 50-50 on here, like some of these results. Are there any for you?
I think Indiana versus Notre Dame could go either way.
Hmm. Well, here's mine. Most now, and I understand why they left out like Alabama and them,
Yeah,
but the thing about it is this: is that with Alabama going 9-3, like I could see why they left them out.
yeah,
And I'm not an Alabama fan by any means, but I do think, of course, that CNSMU's best win was Duke. That was something that I think just kind of show Alabama being more deserving to be in. But however, I just think that those three losses, of course, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and of course that shocking loss to Oklahoma, was really something that I think was keeping them out. And yeah. So what are your thoughts on on that spot? Because of course you know SMU was having to come back from being down, and
yeah,
they were able to keep it close. And of course Clemson ultimately won. But yeah.
yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
Uh, so my thought is like Alabama should be in just because based off the fact that they beat Georgia like at home, which was which they dominated like most of that game.
Hmm. I also think, of course, that on there though is that now I do think that, of course, after that Georgia game, because what happened the next week, they got upset by Vanderbilt, and
Yeah,
yeah. Now I do think, of course, that I was like, okay, one loss ain't gonna kill them, and two losses because, of course, I'm a Tennessee fan and I picked Tennessee to beat Alabama. Um, I thought two losses wasn't gonna kill them.
yeah,
I thought that they were going to be able to get in the playoffs with it, but then they get upset by Oklahoma, and that just was probably the nail in the coffin there.
yeah,
Now they were able to hold on to that 12 spot to stay in, but they would have needed Clemson to. They would have needed, I think, Clemson to keep it close with SMU. Like I'm sorry, Clemson or SMU to keep it close. Um, I'm sorry, not keep it close. Sorry, where was my mind today? um, and yeah, and we end up. Oh hey, chat room, Aiden Snell. Thanks for joining in, man. Um, and I do think, of course, that because of that game, I just think because of that game right there, that's really was why I said the nail in the coffin because I thought maybe okay if Clemson blows out SMU or SMU blows out Clemson, Alabama's going to be fine.
Yeah.
That did not happen. So because of that, Alabama's done. Their playoff chances are done, and they're playing in a bowl.
Yeah.
But I will say this, that Bama being like the first team out, like it makes sense to me. But then again, I also think that then again you have someone who pretty much like I'm talking about SMU, like them just having their best win being against Duke is something that I just think means that SMU is not really all. I'm not saying like in this mean way, like I just don't think they're really all that deserving, really. I think Alabama's played more of a tougher schedule, in my opinion.
And just think about it. If Clemson kept their lead, like a blowout, Alabama would be in.
Yeah, and that's what I think. That's what I think as well. But of course, that didn't happen. Aiden. Aiden in the comments. I think Bama is better than SMU. Although, how can you take away a good season from SMU? I agree with that right there. I do think, of course, that SMU probably having their best season yet as their first member of the SEC in the ACC. They end up playing in the conference championship game. And then, of course, and we're going to talk about this here in a minute, but there has been a bunch of upsets this season. And I do think, of course, that really being in here is the fact that Alabama just isn't really like, they're just not the Alabama team that we're used to seeing in years past, really.
Yeah.
Like, of course, they don't have Saban anymore. Yeah. But when I first saw them like going number one, I was like, okay, it looks like DeBoer is going to be on the same path as Saban. But it doesn't look like it. But I will say he did get him to he did lead them to a bowl season. But I just don't think DeBoer's really popular with some Alabama fans right now.
Yeah.
But however, also another thing is this, that Miami being left out is something that I pretty much expected, Like Miami was undefeated at one point. And then, of course, the team to upset the teams this season, Georgia Tech, upset them. And then after that, and for Miami, of course, they end up – hold on a sec. There we go. Then they end up losing to Syracuse, and
that was shocking.
Yeah. Wait, what?
So that was shocking that they lost to Syracuse, especially after leading like 21 points.
Exactly. And that's, something that I was shocked about. Now, of course, with Syracuse being Code Orange, welcome to the chat, man. Hey, just thought I'd say this, some stream rules. Like I'll keep it in here for now. Just please show sportsmanship, please.
He's right though. He's right. There's go blue.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. But that's also another that we're going to talk about as well, is the fact that, Syracuse was able to put 14 up in the second quarter. Miami scored 14 in the first quarter. Yeah. And then of course it goes up 20. It goes 21-14 in the second quarter, and then Syracuse just starts outscoring them for like in the third quarter 21. They score 21 in that quarter, and then they go compared to Miami 7. So basically, if I do the math real quick, hold on, I'm not good at math. 21 plus 14, 35. They put 35 points, so they were up 35-28 heading into the fourth quarter. Then Michigan scored 10, but I think the final nail. I'm sorry, not Michigan. Miami scored 10, but Syracuse scoring that one touchdown sent them to the conference championship.
Yeah.
So of course, and yes, Aiden, Michigan on top.
Yep. Go blue.
Yeah. So basically, now I do think, of course, that with Miami, it's still a good season regardless, but I just think just not how they anticipated it, like ending really.
Yeah.
And then the next thing we're going to talk about is probably Tennessee and Ohio State, because this is one of the ones where, remember when I asked you it was like 50-50 on? This is one of the ones I'm 50-50 on.
Yeah.
Because the thing about it is this, is that Tennessee, yes, they have 2 losses, but here's the key word. Those 2 losses were on the road. Of course, one of them, of course, was a bad loss to Arkansas. I do admit that. The other one was against Georgia. And of course, and I'm going to be honest, like, if you've seen a Georgia game, it is difficult to win in Georgia. Like, I don't care who you are. You can be like you could be like the best team like in the whole entire world. It is difficult to win up there.
Yeah.
And yeah, but the thing about Michigan though is this, is that I do think that, of course, seeing Tennessee, and I'm sorry, not Tennessee, Ohio State, they have 2 losses. Of course, one of them is, all right, Aiden, you just got yourself you just got yourself subscriber of the month with that one. But anyway, so basically, Ohio State, their 2 losses came, of course, a 1-point loss on the road to Oregon. And here's the key word. They then lose to Michigan, who was a 6-5 team at the time. And they end up going, and Michigan travels to Ohio State. And I understand people say this is a rivalry game, like it's always going to be close. Well, the thing about it is this, is that with Ohio State, they're favored to win by multiple touchdowns.
Yeah,
And
I think they were favored by like 22.8.
yeah. Yeah, like this game happened a while back, so, and also I don't really bet really, so that's why, like, so thanks for giving me that. Yeah. But really what I'm thinking though is this, is that basically Ohio State losing to Michigan at home is really something that really is surprising, because Michigan held them to only 10 points, and Michigan was able to get on the board late in the game. Like, and I'm not saying like I'm saying like getting the field goal in and to get them on the board with the lead and everything. And the fact is that Michigan was able to force Ohio State to turn it over on downs. And then we see Ohio State drop to the 6th seed. And that's just what I think the reason why I'm 50-50 on it is because, like I say, Tennessee's 2 losses were away, while Ohio State has an away loss and a home loss. I think that, of course, I think the committee might be thinking, oh, it's a rivalry. That those always tend to be played close. I honestly don't care about that because I think that, of course, if you're hosting a game and you're favored by like 2 to 3 touchdowns to win by 2 to 3 touchdowns, you pretty much need to win by 2 or 3 touchdowns because of that. And now I also think that Tennessee, of course, but I also can't see why they did that, because Tennessee, of course, they did lose to an Arkansas team who didn't really have a successful season. Now they are bowl eligible, I believe. It's either that or I'm thinking of Oklahoma. Sorry, because they played both of them. But however, that Oklahoma loss ended up being the Oklahoma win ended up not being a good win for Tennessee, because Oklahoma ended up not being as good as people thought. And yes, Arkansas is bowl eligible, playing Liberty Bowl. So basically, that ended up not being a good win for Tennessee, because Oklahoma ended up not having a good year. Same with NC State. You beat a back then ranked NC State. NC State ended up not really having a good year. And yeah. But then, of course, when you get to Georgia, that was pretty much a do or die game for them, because they needed to beat Tennessee. If not, that pretty much would have eliminated them from playoff contention. And Georgia did win. But I do think that, and of course, I'm not going to get into this because you probably have to hear me rant for like 20 minutes. But let's just say that game probably I think will go down as one of the games that I don't think is that I just think that the refs really like. And now I promote sportsmanship, but if you've seen that game, in my opinion, the refs were awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but really I also think that Texas honestly dropping to like the 5 seed is not really all that shocking to me, but they lost to Georgia twice.
Yeah.
And this time they lost to a backup quarterback at Georgia.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, that dude was going off as soon as he got into the game.
Yeah. Gunn is going to be like a really good quarterback for them.
Yeah. I also do think, of course, that that now, would you say that this is kind of like a situation where where Tennessee originally had like Joe Milton as their quarterback, and then he got injured, then they put Hooker in, and ended up finding their quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that could be the same for Georgia, but it just depends on like how he does, pretty much. I do think, of course, that Georgia, of course, they're always going to be pretty good, and yeah, but you just never know because this was this season. But yeah, but I do think that to see them, and we're gonna have to see who they play here in the here in a couple weeks because they have the bye, and yeah. Sorry guys, I just realized I did not have the bracket up. Man, I always tend to always do this whenever I'm live, whenever I'm recording, man.
You good, bro? You good?
Yeah. Basically, so Georgia's going to be playing the winner of Indiana and Notre Dame. So, basically, and if y'all are in the comments, tell me your prediction for the Indiana Notre Dame game. Like, basically, Notre Dame ended up doing pretty good aside from that one loss to where they were upset by NIU. Indiana did pretty good up until that loss to Ohio State. And so what are y'all thinking? Like, especially you, Max, like what are you thinking?
And me personally, I have the Hoosiers winning 21-17. Low scoring. Both defenses will go off that game, but Indiana just wanted more, I think.
Yeah. And also the fact is that, is that of course we have Clemson and Texas, and I'm going to be honest here. I think that Clemson just mostly, I think they just got a little lucky because, basically them going to the championship game was because of Syracuse upsetting Miami.
Yeah.
And they were actually ranked, I believe, 17th at the time. And I was like, what on earth? And hey, Sarah, welcome in. Okay, so you said 35-14. Man. All right. So basically, Clemson and Texas, I don't think it's going to be really close because, I got Texas winning this one like pretty handedly. Simply because Clemson is mostly, like they just got, in my opinion, they just got lucky with the Syracuse win. And that was basically a do or die moment because since they got in, it's going to be, oh, how about this one? Texas 32-20, 29 overtime. How about that? Yeah. But I just think that, of course, for Clemson, it's going to be interesting. But Texas, I'm going to be honest, I don't even because I must be covering Tennessee mostly this season. So yeah, but I'm going to be honest, just seeing how Texas has been strong up until Georgia. Of course, Texas is going to have the home field advantage. I think I got Texas winning this one.
Yeah. Now, me personally, I think Texas will struggle at halftime. Bench Quinn Ewers, bringing yards, he goes off for like 50 yards, 5 touchdowns. Like, I this is go to be fine. No game for Ewers.
Mm-hmm.
In my
And
opinion.
also, just FYI, we're gonna go back to the Tennessee Ohio State game here in a minute. I just figure we're gonna go ahead and get these out the way. And Nine Fan Forever, hello. Thanks for joining in. So the next game we got is Next game we got is SMU Penn State, and Penn State did pretty good this season, and I do think, of course, that for Penn State is the fact that is that early in the season they had a bit of struggles. They nearly got upset by Bowling Green. They end up getting winning the rest of their games up until they get to Ohio State, and then of course with the Big Ten championship game against Oregon. I just think that, of course, Penn State was also able to keep it close to Ohio State in terms of of the score. They only lost like 20-13. So yeah, that really says something. But I do think, of course, that with SMU, and it's like I said earlier, their best win being Duke is something that I am a big sort of like, yeah, I'm going to go with Sarah's comment. I think that Penn State is going to win this one pretty handily.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I think Trudell's going to go off.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think as well now. And of course, now when Oregon was, ahead a lot, like they started to show resilience. Like it looked like they were actually about to come back, but ended up not going their way. Yeah. And they were able to only they were able to lose by a score of 45-37 to Oregon. So that really says something. So that's why I think that's why I think the committee putting them where they're at is actually fair. I'm actually going to say that. And of course, now we have Tennessee and Ohio State. We're going to go back to this one. Of course, Max, you've seen how Tennessee's been playing this season. What do you think about how their performance was throughout the season?
I think they've been pretty solid. Nico, he just needs to stop overthrowing these dudes. Like, you're not Joe Milton, man. Like, stop it. Now, Dylan Sampson, on the other hand, has been going crazy. Like breaking records. Like, he's been awesome this year. So I think he'll rise for like over 200 yards, 4 touchdowns. Because like I've seen some Ohio State games, their run defense is god awful in my opinion.
Yeah, and of course, also just FYI, Max is also a Michigan fan. So of course he'll want anything. He'll want Tennessee to blow out Ohio State. But however, Wesley, thank you. Hello, and this is what I was going to say. Also, Sarah, final score, she predicts Tennessee's going to win 28-26. I just think this. Like Tennessee's been able to get it done in the ground game. Of course, they've had Dylan Sampson's break records for him this season. And the fact about it is that but the bad thing about it is this, though, is that Tennessee's been going out on these slow starts. And that's what I think that could affect them in the long run, And I think that, of course, on these slow starts, I think, of course, with being at Ohio State, I think that Tennessee cannot have a slow start. That's just what I think. If you got to get points on the board in every quarter in this game, you got to try. Yeah, because hey, defense can't always bail you out. Now they, saying defense wins championships.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. If you always rely on your defense to bail you out,
so just left you swing points.
Yeah. Here's what I think. Defense wins championships if you pitch in.
Yeah.
And of course, Tennessee needs to try to make some pass plays happen as well. But I do think Sampson should be able to run all over the Ohio State defense, but you just never know. It's college football. Anything can happen. Yeah. But I do think, of course, that for Tennessee, like they're going to have to probably play their best game of the season right here, in my opinion. because of course, their record this season is that is true through Sarah. I think you're meaning like through like the first quarter is what I assume you're saying. Sorry, that comment just sorry that comment just threw me off real quick. But where was I? Oh yeah. So Tennessee basically, that they're going to have to get in the end zone a lot, and they're going to have to no, it's not in the spelling. Is like the 0 points in the first quarter for the 0 points in the first quarter for the first game is what I was saying. But anyway, I think that of course Tennessee's going to have to get downfield, put the points on Ohio State, because Ohio State, dang well will not go down without a fight.
Yeah.
And so. And I also think that this Tennessee defense has been able to, like I said, bail them out a lot this season. But how are they going to do pretty much against a team that pretty much is in a whole different conference than them? And yeah, because Big Ten, it's a tough conference. Don't get me wrong. But I think, of course, that with Ohio State losing to Michigan, will that give the Buckeyes some motivation to get into the Yeah, that's what I thought you meant there. Thanks, Sarah. But I do think, of course, that that do the Buckeyes have motivation after that loss to Michigan? That's what's going to happen because, and of course we already know. Yeah, Wesley, I think the defense is going to do that too. So, sorry guys, I'm just replying to some comments here, but I think that Tennessee's defense is going to be pretty strong. But do I think that Tennessee can win the game on defense alone? I don't think so. I think they got to get in the end zone, and I think that they got to, I think they got to get in the end zone like as quickly as possible. Because say what happens if Ohio State goes off in like the first half and Tennessee starts doing like a slow start again, then Ohio State could run all over them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that happen.
Yeah. Which is why I'm hoping that Tennessee can try to switch some things up a little bit. Now, you had some time now to figure things out because, you got to try to do everything you can to not have a slow start. And now, of course, when we're talking about, Tennessee's last game against Vanderbilt, they allowed that kickoff return for a touchdown. And then, of course, Sampson fumbled. And then Vanderbilt was able to get into the end zone both times, and Tennessee was able to come back and win. That seems to be the trend with Tennessee this season. And I just think that, them not really being able to put a lot of points on the board in the first half is what has been causing a bunch of issues. That's just me. But they ended up starting to come out guns blazing in the second half. And that's what we saw from them in like every game this season.
Yeah.
So basically, I think that heading in here is Tennessee's going to have to probably switch things up because these slow starts, in the playoffs, every team's going to be desperate.
Yeah.
So every team getting in there is going to be difficult. And yeah, like Sarah said, there's no coming back against Ohio State. So yeah, so they're going to have to do everything they can to win. Like they're 1-2 on the road this season. Of course, the win was against Oklahoma. The loss was to Arkansas. And oh wait, I'm sorry, I take that back. Actually, they're not 1-2 on the road. I was thinking of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia. They also played Vandy on the road, and they played NC State at a neutral site. So they're 3-2 pretty much on the road. And yeah, so that's actually what it is. And yeah, Wesley, the best starts against Georgia, we just unfortunately weren't able to hold it down really, But I do think, of course, that heading on in here is the fact that Tennessee is mostly they're going to have to figure things out, like get that good start they had against Georgia, and they're going to have to figure out what to do from there because. And I remember seeing this like documentary. I'm sorry, not like documentary type thing where and Max, I know because you've heard me talk about this so many times. 2007 App State versus Michigan.
Don't remind me. Do not remind me. No.
But basically, well, I think it was 10 years later that they got the players from that game into the room, and they said that in the second half, you're going to get that the coach told them that second half you're going to start to see what the best the Big Ten has to offer, and I think that's going to apply to here because like both teams are probably going to come out guns blazing, but it's going to be whoever gets the biggest boom is what's going to, I think, get them the win.
Yeah.
Sarah, what do you mean? How do we get here? If you're wondering like what the App State thing was, it was because it's because like I was trying to quote from like basically what the perspective should be. Like you got to pretty much play the. Oh yeah, that. No, I was just quoting like what the coach told the App State players. It was because they're always going to have the best. Like the Big Ten's always going to come back out. Like Big Ten teams, they're going to always come out guns blazing, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's what I think Tennessee's going to have to look out for. They're going to have to stop the momentum if Ohio State has it in the second half. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Now, historically speaking, SEC teams usually beat Big Ten teams.
Mm-hmm. But however, I think this could be a different environment as well because like with Tennessee, they did play Ohio State before, but that was in a bowl game back in the 90s. They won that game. Tennessee won that game, but this time you're not playing it at a neutral site. You're playing it at Ohio State.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here.
Yeah.
All right. Any thoughts from you?
Nah.
All right, guys. I think we're going to go ahead and end the stream for tonight. So thanks for watching. I remember we're both still learning a little bit, and of course, I rarely go live, so I was just a little bit nervous on this one. But hey, it is what it is. We'll get better. Yeah. And with that being said, peace out. God bless y'all, and good night.
Bye.
There we go.